testimony, we've had a few conversations in terms of our ability to be able to harvest in Colorado, downstanding dead timber, to be able to turn that into biomass, to be able to keep a mill going. And also some problems that we have with our utilities as well, being able to get in and clear out under those lines. But what do you see as the biggest impediment to managing the forest in the bark beetle epidemic?
You know, probably just the scale of the work that needs to be done, you know, right away to protect our communities and provide for the public safety. And then the biggest challenge, especially there in Colorado, is the loss of the infrastructure, the integrated wood products industry, to be able to, you know, be able to use this material and to be able to have markets that will offset the cost of removing it. That's one of the, I'll say in Colorado, one of the biggest challenges. And where I've worked in other parts of the country where we've lost that wood products industry, it is very expensive for us to be able to then to do the restoration work, to be able to thin out these forests, not only to protect, you know, the communities from wildfire, but just to improve overall forest health. That's why we're focused on doing everything we can to be able to maintain the infrastructure we currently have, and then in a few places be able to look at using long-term stewardship contracts to be able to provide the incentive for someone to come in and make a new investment, you know, either in a new mill or in a new operation. Those are the things that I look at as some of the biggest challenges that we have.
Okay, could you maybe describe for us a few of the ideas that you have in terms of our local Forest Service officers exercising creativity and having some regulatory flexibility to be able to address some of those concerns?
Well, I've talked about the NEPA efficiencies,
right,
so that we can look at these much larger landscapes. I mean, instead of looking at 500 to 1,000 acres at a time, to be looking at tens of thousands of acres, so that we can have, you know, one analysis that'll cover a lot of country and provide a lot of work over many years. The other thing is through our stewardship contracts. We've found that this contracting authority has been very beneficial. We find that we have less appeals, less lawsuits when we're using stewardship contracting authority, and it allows us to be able to do multiple year contracts, to have contracts up to 10 years that will, you know, encourage you know, someone to make the investment. The other thing is to look at using all the flexibility we have with when we're laying out a project. Instead of you know, in the past, I often would you know, go out there and mark every tree that needed to be cut. We have other flexibilities to be able to use either weight scaling or this designation by prescription, so that we can lay out how we want the area to look afterwards, and then be able to then let the timber operator go in there and remove the trees based on that prescription. And we find this is another way that we can, you know, save you know, some of the cost and make it a little bit easier for us to be able to, you know, get more work done. These are some of the things that we're looking at. We're also doing everything that we can to work with the industry, you know, especially with some of their past timber sale contracts that they purchased when we had a better market, and to be able to we can to adjust those rates, or in the case there in Colorado, to actually cancel some timber sales that just were no longer economically viable, because it's essential that we do what we can to be able to maintain the industry.
Okay. Could you speak maybe briefly a little bit to the importance of existing utility infrastructure on Forest Service lands, providing electricity to America, which we need, and how we can help protect that?
Well, it's essential that, you know, we work with utility companies to be able to, they can maintain their lines, and that they're able to do the clearing underneath those power lines, so when we do get a fire started, we don't lose that line. So one of the things there with the challenges with the mountain pine beetle outbreak, especially in your state and other parts of the West, is that utility companies were faced with a much larger job to be able to, you know, clear those lines, and not only the material underneath the lines, but any of the trees that could fall.
No, I'm going to run out of time. Could you maybe just give a little touch and let us know, are there any regulatory or legal impediments to the Forest Service to use contractors or the utilities themselves as contractors to be able to remove underneath the lines?
I believe we have the flexibility in our current authorities to work with the utility companies to be able to remove what they need to underneath their lines, and then also to be able to work with them to actually address adjacent areas too. It's one of the things we're looking at is being able to use that contracting flexibility for not just within the permit, but also how we can work together to be able to get more of the work done while they have the equipment in place.
So just to be clear, so you don't see any legal impediments?
We're looking
or
into our
regulatory?
current authorities, and I'd like to get back to you on that. If I find that we've exhausted our flexibility and there's a need for additional flexibility, I'd like to come back to you with that.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.